Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing good and life tastes good and everything is light in your favor. Welcome, bienvenido in a new episode of Podcast Yellow Wave, which, as you can see, is called A como authenticity. So A like authenticity, which means this episode will be dedicated to that term. My idea in general is to make every new episode coming, starting with each letter of the alphabet. So fingers crossed for me, I will make it. And I sound like as if I wasn't sure, but I just don't like to give promises that I'm not sure I will be able to keep. Once I read a really nice book called Four Agreements, maybe you know. And I think one day I will make an episode, like separated episode about that one, because I think it's a book that everyone should read, and it changes a lot in how you perceive world, and it has positively huge impact on your mindset, like on developing your mindset. And I mentioned that because one of the agreement that was explained there was to keep your word and respect it. So if you say so, also mean so. So that's why I don't want to promise that, because I don't know, sometimes life happens in between and there are things that we can't influence and are like, we are not depending on us. So yeah, I will do my best. Yes, but blah, 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 blah. Let's go back to our episode and welcome everyone. Today, I would like to speak about authenticity because I think it's one of the most important assets, values. I don't know actually which category can it be, but it's super important for me. And I don't know if you ever wonder about this one, but since the time I was living in Berlin, in a city where so many people play some kind of role, like it's my opinion, you might not agree with that, and that's fine. But I was thinking a lot about this, where and when and why some of us lose their authenticity. First question that came to my mind when I was creating this episode was, what actually does it mean to be authentic? I think it's like being yourself no matter who or what you're surrounded with. Authenticity is about putting all the layers down until that moment when you can see only yourself without any type of label. And of course, sometimes we need to step into some roles, like for instance, at work or at school. But I don't know, I have this feeling that there's always space for our little personajes, no? Like our little personalities. A few days ago, I started to read also another book. It's kind of self-development / psychological, written by a Polish podcaster. And this podcast is called Banał, and the book is also called Banał. And in English, it's translated like banal. But to be honest, I didn't know this word. So small explanation is that banal, it's something cliche, something super easy, actually that easy that it might seem to be even stupid, like easy as fuck. And I mentioned that because I found there a super interesting sentence saying that we only need a few years in a society that teaches us that being ourselves, it's too much. And I feel like it's like the answer to the question I asked before, like when and why people lose their authenticity. I don't know why, but somehow this sentence hit me hard and soft because actually I think that mostly because of our surroundings, we are indicating ourselves how we should behave or act and in which box we should fit in. And claro que, like, of course, it's easy to say, like, yes, stay true to yourself, la la la. But also, it's not so easy if you don't fit anything what's surrounding you, no? Especially, I feel like when your self-aesthetic is not so developed and you might keep questioning if it's you or them, or should you be more or should you be less, then it's hard to set some boundaries and have this self-assurance that actually it's not too much and it's not too little, no? But I feel like the bigger our self-aesthetic is, the more you want to stay by your truths. So then you stay also by this authentic part of you, no? Because you know that your company is actually totally worth it. Of course, I'm not an expert, but I was observing it a lot at my last workplace, and surely it's might take a lot of time to get to know the authenticity, to recognize it, but why sometimes it takes like months to see it? Some people keep hiding it so deep down inside themselves. And on the other hand, you meet these people in sport class, and after this only 1 hour lesson class, you can feel that they are themselves, or even if in the beginning, claro, like of course you don't know, like you keep observing, but then after observing and observing, you see that nothing changes and this person is still the same. This subject is kind of philosophical, I have this feeling, and I feel that I talk about everything and nothing at once, but where actually are the borders of authenticity? And should there be any borders of that? I think not, because as I mentioned before, like quoting this book of this guy like Piotr Białasiewicz, the banal, the society teaches us that being ourselves is too much and we should fit some categories, be inside of some boxes, because if we step our foot outside, we might get judged or be pointed fingers at. But I think the borders are created actually by the society and also the norms that are considered as something normal. But look, there are still anyway people who take the risk of being pointed at, or okay, maybe let's not be so dramatic, but like being observed more intense than people who just fit the box, and they still don't care. They just do it. I believe also that in such moments we keep the space for something as authentic as we are to come to us, and by not analyzing if it's too much or too little, just being this, then the others who are also this, they will be attracted because they will feel like, oh, it's the same. Or the other way around, like we will notice this in other people and be also attracted by that, no? Another question which stands up in my mind is also why some of us are not authentic. Like, I don't know, there might be many reasons, but maybe because of being judged by someone already in the past and it's kind of trauma and they just don't want to, or maybe because we actually judge ourselves or we don't like part of ourselves, so we are stuck in the belief it's not worth to present it on the outside, or maybe because it costs too much to be outside the box, or maybe because it's easier. Maybe because we don't have capacity to do it. I think there are many, many reasons. Many, many, many. Quoting our tutor from Erasmus, she was always saying that. Sorry. And if you have more ideas, Dime, tell me. Maybe in the comment on Insta or on Spotify. I'm really curious. Like, what can be the reason? Also, I think authenticity is one of my favorite assets regarding everything, like people who are as they are, places that are not fake created in order to, I don't know, make money or to attract more people, but they are made with this like rare aesthetic, like with piece of soul. Like imagine, for instance, when you're traveling and you go for this super nice, delicious, real carbonara in Italy in a small village next to the bigger touristic city, instead of this one in a touristy spot close to the Colosseum in Rome. And you can see the difference. Like the first place, the in the small village is, I don't know, somehow it has more value. Like the taste is different. It's just tastes better, no? I don't know, what would you say, my dear listeners? How much actually does it cost to be authentic? To be just as we are without looking for any validation or anything. You're just yourself. Does it cost a lot? Or is it at the end worth to pay that price to be you? I really wish that every one of us will come one day to that point where we will feel comfortable with ourselves without any layers, but comfortable to that stage also to not to be able not to hide it. Because at the end of the day, if someone will not feel you like you like your pureness use, what is the point of sticking together? I believe in such situations, we might miss the chance to be in a space where we really belong. And what I'd also noticed among last, I don't know, years, I think, is that sometimes if you do the first step towards someone with your authenticity, like you show that, hey, that's just you, people somehow show their own also. And yes, vale, chicos, we come to the end of the beginning, which means to the end of the first episode of the new season. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it wasn't too complicated to understand what I wanted to tell you. Because for me, it's hard to talk about such, I don't know, philosophical or psychological subjects, as they are long as a river, we say in Polish. And also, I've never studied this. Like, it's just me, Marta Knasiak, Katam Nasiak, talking how I perceive it, what I think about this. But anyway, I hope you liked it. I hope you had nice time listening to that. It was an episode of podcast Yellow Wave called A como Authenticity. And behind the mic is speaking moi, Marta Knasiak, aka Knasia. And as Elena Gilbert from The Vampire Diaries was saying, that's my life. Weird, messy, complicated, sad, wonderful, amazing, and above all, epic. Adios.